Love this guy. Love chatting with him. And, man, is there a lot going on with Pac-12 football, is it not? Getting set to kick off his 12th season. You're dozen as the head coach of Stanford football on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is none other than David Shaw. How you doing, Coach?
I'm great, Rich. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you as well. Getting ready for Colgate, I see, right, this weekend?
We are. Looking for a great bounce-back year from last year. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of guys back. Training camp's been great. Very excited about our quarterback. And we're look forward to having a lot of fun this season.
Yeah, before we get to all that, how does Colgate wind up on the schedule? Do you say, I need to mine the Finger Lakes for those 4.0 student athletes? Is that the way Colgate winds up on the Stanford schedule, Coach?
There are a lot of ways teams end up on your schedule. A lot has to do with planning these things, like sometimes 7 to 12 years out.
Yes.
And then someone bailing on you, maybe 3 years out. So there's a lot of conversations that happen after long time arrangements go by the wayside.
Who bailed on you? Who bailed on you, Coach?
Yeah, it's the combination of things,
okay.
Right? Combination of things of some people changing conferences and changing on someone else, and then someone else says, oh, gosh, now I have to change this, and then that affects us. So it's like, the butterfly flaps his wings some places, and 9 teams have to change their schedule 3 years out.
Well, let's jump into this then, David Shaw. Speaking of bailing and changing conferences, look who's in week 2, USC coming to Stanford. And I know you don't like to look over schedules. I look over the dashboard. I understand that. But the circumstances of this game with USC, I imagine, is significant. Does that at all creep into your mindset with USC coming to town for you week 2?
We have such a long-standing rivalry with USC. We don't need any extra motivation. I try not to have any extra things around it. Like, it's going to be emotional enough. We have enough guys from Northern and Southern California that this is going to be a really good battle. Our guys are not concerned what's going to happen 2 years down the road anyway. We're focused on right now. But it is interesting as a long-time conference person. Both as a kid, my dad coached in the Pac-8 and the Pac-10. I played in the Pac-10 and now coached in the Pac-12, and now it's going to be the Pac. We'll see.
Yes, the Pac. We'll see.
It's going to be a good game, but the longer-term implications, no one has any idea.
That's where I do want to ask you about that, and I know you knew I would ask you about it. So let me just jump into it before I get to your football season. Is the fact that the Pac-12 future is completely up in the air. What did you think of when you heard USC and UCLA were going to the Big Ten, Coach?
Like most people, I didn't believe it. I was at my son's track meet, and I started getting all these texts, and I was like, okay, somebody's messing with me. And then come to find out that it's true, kind of sent me to a little bit of which has happened a lot for a lot of us in college sports in the last couple of years, like, where are we right now? Mm-hmm. It hurt a little bit in that part of what defines our conference are our natural rivalries, in particular, the 4 of us California schools. When we became the Pac-12, the long-standing agreement was that we're going to play each other every year regardless of North and South. So that desire for all 4 of us to always play each other has always been there, and now that's somewhat in jeopardy. So my hope is, if everything stays the way that it is, we maintain the Pac-10, whether we invite somebody else or not. My hope is that we continue to play USC and UCLA because our alumni are so intertwined that I couldn't imagine not playing both those teams pretty much every year.
Yeah, I know. Did you at any point call your school's athletic director and the president of the school to say, like, what's our plan here? I mean, have you lifted the phone and had those conversations, David Shaw?
We've had those conversations, but my office is too small to handle those things. Mm-hmm. These are coming with conference commissioners, talking to TV people, talking to presidents, and I'm not exactly sure. No one is. What's next? Does the Big Ten make another invite and gobble up a few more schools? Does everything stand pat? Does the Pac-10 now go bigger and try to add more? None of us know. and we could all get phone calls in the next 48 hours. We could not know for another 4 months.
That's right, or years, or even years, or even years, And I'll be honest, Coach, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the phone here. I immediately thought, because when the speculation in my end of the business that you dip your toe in every draft season about who could come next from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. Since I am here in Los Angeles, I can't believe it's true, sitting in Big Ten country here. Who else would you want to take? Well, the Big Ten, and just some people throwing out Washington and Oregon or what have you. I said I'll take both Bay Area schools. I'd take your program and I'd take Cal's program, because that's something you could go to the school presidents of the Big Ten and say, how about bringing Stanford and Cal into the equation? Who would say no to something like that? Have you gotten those phone calls, do you think? Do you know?
Well,
willing to share?
Nobody's calling me.
Right.
Nobody's calling me, and I've just got out of training camp, so I haven't answered my phone in a while anyway.
Right.
But yeah, you can make a case for that to say academically, it could be very enticing. You could say Washington, Oregon, regionally, Seattle, and Portland for viewership. But then again, you could say ESPN was out of the running for the Big Ten, and ESPN makes a big push to keep the Pac-10 the way that it is,
right,
and make that lucrative for everybody. So all of these things are just floating around in the ether as I try to close my door and game plan. So that's kind of where we are all right now. Okay.
David Shaw, Stanford head football coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about your quarterback, Tanner McKee. What are you expecting out of him this year, Coach?
I really believe this is going to be a breakout year for him. Started off on a high note, once he was named the starter, upset win at USC, upset against a highly ranked Oregon team, played great. Then our receivers started getting banged up. Then he kind of got banged up and missed a game. So everybody's starting healthy and fresh. He's got some great weapons, but he's a 6'6", 225-pound young man that can throw the deep ball, put the ball in tight spaces. He's brilliant. He's a leader. So he's one that all the NFL scouts have come through to make sure that they take a good look at him, because he's one that could really jump on the scene this year.
Yeah, is there? My family just went to Disneyland, and there's these signs that you have to be this tall to ride the ride. Is there such a thing in Stanford at the quarterback position? You got to be 6'4" and above? Because, my gosh, do you love 6'4" and above quarterbacks since you've been there, Coach?
I've heard that I have a type. I've heard that.
Yeah, I looked it up. KJ Costello, 6'5", Ryan Burns, 6'5", Luck is obviously 6'4". Davis Mills, he doesn't need to step on a stool to get something at the top of a shelf, so... You got him.
There's something about being able to see, because we also have a lot of big offensive linemen here. Right? We have a lot of big guys. Love the play action game, love the drop back game, and a guy to be able to see all those places. Now, you can also make a case there are special, unique circumstances like Drew Brees sees as well as any quarterback who's ever played the game, and he's just right about 6 foot. So there are, of course, outliers, but for the most part, having those big quarterbacks. But the other thing for me, too, is they got to be able to move as well. Big quarterbacks that can move, and Tanner can move. He's a good athlete, and he can make all the throws. Yeah,
and so I guess because we, certainly in the NFL and every draft season, we talk about how the college offense has now been taken over the pro offense and so on and so forth, and you want guys who can – run and as well as throw. And I'm just wondering, if this is the way of the future. You see somebody like Josh Allen crush it as he is doing right now, but Burrow is more of a drop back guy, pocket passer. I'm wondering, you're the one sitting at the, at the cross section, at the forefront of getting these kids ready. What you see in the offense from the quarterback position now, David Shaw.
For me, it hasn't really changed. All the way back to Bill Walsh, right? I played for Bill at Stanford after his great career at the 49ers. Mm-hmm. And he would always say the quarterback must account for 4 to 5 first downs with his legs, right? It's just the idea that the quarterback's legs are just a gut shot to the defense. So having an athletic quarterback that's mobile enough to scramble for a first down, get positive yards, that transition that he made from Joe Montana to Steve Young, that quarterback as a running weapon. You just see it more often now But even a guy like Joe Burrow, Joe's a hell of an athlete. He's quick in the pocket. He's quick to escape. He can throw on the run extremely well. So I think that is a big part of today's football. They don't all have to run 4-4, but they have to be able to move and get positive yards with their legs when they need to.
Your 12th year, Coach, at Stanford. This is, where's the time gone? I guess normally I would say how have things changed, but there's the NIL world now for you. How does Stanford and the NIL world coexist these days, Coach?
That's fascinating. So Stanford is still Stanford. We believe we want to come bring people here for the right reasons. I love the NIL world. Our guys are partaking in the NIL world and doing very well there, combined with getting their Stanford degree, which in the long run is going to be more lucrative for them than the NIL money. But there's also the enticement part of NIL, which is supposed to be illegal, which we all know is happening all over the place. But so that's what we are just battling and actually doing really well. Top 25 class last year. I believe we'll be top 25 class again this year without those extras, without those illegal enticements, because of what Stanford means, right? There's the one visit that mom, dad, uncle, grandma, they all want their young person to come to Stanford and reap the benefits of a great education and all the context that you earn here, and you meet people here. So that for us is enough to battle some cash in hand from other places. So we can still win those battles because of how special Stanford is and still do NIL the right way while our guys are on campus.
Yeah, because I've spoken to so many of your colleagues, Coach David Shaw. I think in the Pac-12, I think Kyle Whittingham said there's just a couple have confirmed. I think he was one of them where, kids will on a recruiting trail saying, I've gotten this much, you match it, I'll come. If not, I can't come. And does anyone have the temerity to say that to a Stanford football head coach? Have you had that?
They know right up front what I'm going to give them is on the back end, and it's going to be bigger than what they get on the front end. The number of our guys that are in medical school, business school, starting their own companies, taking advantage of their Stanford degrees, doing startups, like those guys are reaping the benefits of their time here. So I'm not going to battle with somebody who's giving cash on the front end. I'm going to battle what the Stanford University degree is going to do for you on the back end.
David Shaw here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, we've reached the portion of our conversation where you tell me what's going on with some of the Stanford football players in the National Football League. McCaffrey, walk me through this here. It's Baker Mayfield with him. How do you think that? This is what I love talking to you about. One of the many reasons why I love talking to you, David Shaw, because I was sitting on the set with you when Baker Mayfield got drafted. So,
yes.
If I told you Mayfield at Cleveland, I'm like, hey, guess what? He and McCaffrey are going to be in the same backfield in Carolina in 2022. You'd have been like, what? But such is the case. How do you think that's going to work? And how is McCaffrey feeling after 2 seasons in a row and having all the conversations about his fragility now front and center? Coach, what do you got for me there?
So to answer the first question first,
yes.
One thing I know about Baker Mayfield, he's at his best when the questions are the biggest right now. So big questions. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he plays well in those environments, especially if you give him a running game. Right, what he did in Cleveland a couple of years ago with a really good running game and a couple of good tight ends, his outlets, and his legs, and playing great defense, he can play well enough to get you to the playoffs. Second question, the Christian McCaffrey that I know, with questions out there, you better look out. Right, this is the healthiest he's been. It's the best he's felt in 2 years. He has a monster chip on his shoulder to prove that he deserves where he is as far as the contract and the respect and all the yards and NFL records that he's already broken. He's my early vote for comeback player of the year. He is fired up. He is ready. And I can't wait to watch him play this year.
And rules, offense, and system, that this can all, it looks good. I mean, Mayfield has been making some great throws in the preseason. It does look good, but it's preseason.
They've bounced around a couple different things before. They've had quarterbacks get injured,
right.
Play up and down. The receivers are healthy. They've got speed outside. You get a healthy Christian McCaffrey and a mobile quarterback like Baker. Now you've got a lot of those things, just like we talked about. Baker's going to get you 2 to 3 positive running games, running plays per game.
Right.
And now you give Christian McCaffrey the option routes, hand it to him a bunch of times. now you've got the makings of an exciting offense.
And then in terms of narratives that I hear all the time in the NFL, when the subject of matter, the Houston Texans comes up, I hear your voice in my head all the time when I hear the thing, maybe Jimmy G can go to Houston because they're not really sold on Davis Mills. And I hear your voice in my head saying, who said they're not sold on Davis Mills? You know, and I think they are sold on him, and I'll give you the floor on what you know on this subject matter for him in Houston.
Well,
Coach.
He's just another one of those 6'4" plus Stanford quarterbacks who's really smart, really accurate, and a better athlete than you think, and can make all the throws. He's got a big-time arm. Nothing phases him. He's got a coordinator who understands him and understands what he does well and is putting those things around him. Will they have enough up front? Does he have enough weapons? Will they play well enough on defense that it's not all on his shoulders? Those are the big questions. I don't think Davis Mills is the question. You watch how he played the last month of the season, and you can make a case that he was the best rookie quarterback in the NFL at the end of last year.
Yeah, I know. And in terms of turkey fresh in the oven to one that's been in the oven 2 hours too long, how done is Andrew Luck, Coach? How done is he?
He's been done, but everybody still asks. Because he is so special, because he's so talented. But he has moved on. He's starting grad school this fall. He just had baby number 2. His life is great. He's very content on his college, on his NFL career. Not fired up about how it ended, but it did end. He did a lot of great things and brought a lot of joy to the people of Indianapolis. And now for him, it's time for chapter 2.
So he's on campus. He's back on Stanford's campus for grad school, is what you're saying, or is he somewhere else?
I don't know if I'm supposed to publicize that or not.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yes. He's starting grad school this fall. He and his wife, Nicole, are coming back out this way, and he's just going to be around. He loves the Stanford environment, and he and his family are going to spend some time here, and we can't wait to be around him.
So you could be strolling on campus, and there he is with his book bag? Is that really what can happen this
absolutely.
this fall?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that's so great about this campus is in Indianapolis. Still, after not playing these last few years, he goes out to a restaurant, he still gets mobbed.
Right.
But you're going to walk on campus here, and Mark Zuckerberg might be walking across campus. Condoleezza Rice is walking across campus. Right? There's people walking across campus that are famous, they're world famous. So he's just another one of that group.
Well, Dr. Rice, she'll have her Broncos book bag now, right? She's part of that group. She's part of the ownership group there.
Yes, she is.
Coach, thanks for the time. Have a great season. Let's connect during it, and I always love hearing from you whenever you text me just out of the blue. I love it. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Rich.
You be well. You be well. That's the coach of Stanford football, one of my favorites, David Shaw.